the concept of Advaita can be paraphrased into one single saying, which is Tat Dvam Asi, right? Tat Dvam Asi. And literally that translates that is you are, right? That thou art. Okay? And so Advaita means without second, no second. In fact, when you hear today everybody talking about non-duality, it comes from Advaita. Yeah, it's a non-duality is an Advaita. Is actually non-duality did not exist in the English language. It was Advaita that gave non-duality to the English language, right? Because when they translated Advaita, it became no second, no two, and so it became no duality, non-duality. Ad means no, Dvait, no two, right? Dvait means two. So Advait, no two. Right? What does that mean? So the fundamental teaching is that you are that. Yeah. You're it. But it's much deeper than Buddhism. It's much deeper than Tantra. It's much deeper than all of these thinking. Because by process of elimination, I realized that I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm not this identity, I'm not Raja, I'm not male, I start realizing slowly, I'm not the same person I was when I was 10 years old, and not when even 10 years ago I was not the same person. No cells in me are the same, my mind is not the same, my brain is not the same, nothing remains the same, right? So when you peel away all those layers, what Advaita says is that the ultimate luminous state behind everything is pure sat-chit-ananda, consciousness, right? Existence, consciousness, bliss. Right? Sat-chit-ananda. So what does that mean? That means everything you have constructed, the Advaitin call Maya. Yeah? Maya. You've heard this, you know this word, you've heard it from me many times, Maya. Now, the English translation of Maya is illusion, but it's not illusion. It is a construct of my mind. Everything is Maya, construct of, and we go and say Mahamaya, so the ultimate mind is the mother that constructs all this stuff. Mahamaya, Maya, right? So Maya is considered to be a goddess, Mahamaya. We sang to her last week and we said, Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadike Sharanye Trambake Gauri Narayani Namastude, Narayani Namastude, Narayani Namastude. That's to the Mahamaya, Narayani, Adi Shakti, the first mother. Yeah. So the first mother whose womb we're in is the constructor of this Maya. So the Advait approach says, well, if once you cross beyond that, we call it Shunya, the void, the Buddhists call it Shunya, we call it Sadashiva, whatever you want to call it, right? Even that is still a construct. But once you let go and realize that there is no you, there is no world, there is nothing, then you have this ultimate state of freedom that comes. And they call it freedom, right? And today we are going to read a poem called the Nirvana Shatakam, the 100 verses to extinction of myself, extinguishing myself, the Nirvana Shatakam, right? And so let's think about Advaita for a second. No two. Oh, you can say, oh, yeah, it's consciousness. It's that ultimate state of consciousness. Nah, it's not even that, right? Let's say, oh, it's awareness. It's me being fully aware of everything. Yes, but it's not that. It's It's none of these things. It's like the Wu Wei. It just is. It's pure sat-chit-ananda. They went further than Wu Wei. They said it's sat-chit-ananda. Wu Wei said it's beyond yin and yang, so it's like everything, all beyond all dualities. They said, no, it's a three-aspect state of being, sat-chit-ananda. Sat can be translated as truth or existence, right? This being, sat. Then chit, my consciousness, my mind, that also gone. Ananda, pure bliss awareness, right? Sat-chit-ananda. Imagine a God called Sat-chit-ananda, right? It's a good name for God, no? Because it's me in my ultimate state, Sat-chit-ananda. So let me take you on a little trip here. So this whole principle that we're studying is built on what is called Vedanta, which is, there are 108 main Upanishads. These are written between 1500 and 500 BC. There are 10 principal ones, and we have studied quite a few here. We've studied Isha, we've studied Kena, we've studied Katha, we've studied Mandukya. And today we're going to look a little bit at Chandogya, but Chandogya is this concept of Tattvam Asi, right? That you are it. So all the Upanishads took all the philosophy of the Vedas, right, the oldest religion of India, and started to distill it into psychological consciousness thinking, right, about me. And the fundamental question that the Upanishads were asking is, who are you? Right? So I want you to think about it for a second. Who are you? Who am I? Who am I? Right? Ramana said, Koham. And then he answered, Soham. Okay, fine. That sounds profound and deep. Who am I? I am that. That what? What is that? What is that which I am? Right? So you can say, I am human, or I am this mind, or I am the goddess. You can go right up to the goddess. But then even beyond that, what are you beyond that? Are you the goddess? So this is the biggest question asked in this teaching is, who am I? Right? By the way, it's the same question that Socrates was asking in Greece, right? And Socrates approached it the same way, which is that, no, I can't be this thinking. I can't be that logic. I can't be those gods. He was eliminating everything. He forced people to question everything until they pulled all their hair out, and they hated him, and they eventually killed him for that, because he was disrupting the youth of Athens. So they killed him, right? Well, they didn't kill him. They gave him poison and he drank it, right? And he happily died. But why did he die? And why was he condemned? Because he was disrupting the youth of Athens to question. What did they question? All the truths that they thought, right? Where the truths, right? So you question the truth, and what happens? You get killed, right? You get killed, right? So Socrates was also doing the same thing in Greece that these Upanishadic seers were doing in India. Same time, 700, 600 BC. Same time, right? Same time, right? So let's look at this question of who am I, right? Koham, 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 koham. So after all this work you've been doing with me, right? After all this thinking, what do you think? Who are you? Right? As we saw, Advaita is based on this principle, which simply put is that you are it. Okay? So let's start with that thesis, shall we? Let's start with that thesis. That you, all those complex yous, are that which you think is the whole mind behind everything and has no form, no shape, no nothing. You're it, right? Let's just think about that for a second, right? So Advaita is based on what is called jnana yoga, right? So if you remember in the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, right? There are 4 yogas in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Karma yoga, Raja yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga, right? These are the four. And in fact, the four yogas are the way to approach this path. Let's start with what Shakti is all about, Tantra is all about. Shanti and Tantra are Bhakti Yoga. Yeah. That means I surrender to this deep, beautiful idea. It may start as a goddess or a god, or it ends with love and universe, right? It's kind of a loving, devotional surrender is required, right? That is the fundamental thesis of Bhakti Yoga. That means, know me, I surrender to the divine through this thing, and then eventually I become divine, right? This is Bhakti, right? This idea of Bhakti. So all Tantra, all Shakti is Bhakti, right? All, right? All like that, right? The other one is Karma Yoga. That means I want to be a good person in the world. I want to do good by doing compassion, by action, by my words, by my thoughts. I'm a good person in the world, so therefore I liberate through that yoga, right? Karma Yoga is the act of doing something in the world, whether it's your job or serving the poor or anything that acts require you to act. If I act in a beautiful, spiritual, positive way, I'm a karma yogin, right? I'm a beautiful thing. Right? Even my job, if I do it in that way, kind of detached about it. The third one, which people think is the highest, but it's not, is Raja Yoga, right? Which is Ashtanga, Patanjali, Kriya, all these yogas, right? The yoga of the eightfold path, eight path of yoga. It's similar to Buddhism, right? The yam, niyam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, all those, right? That this idea of a step by step removal of me so that I become divine, right? But Kundalini is a yoga, right? In that sense. Hatha yoga, Kriya yoga, these are all yogas, yeah? And Raja Yoga is the ultimate name that surrounds all that yoga, right? And the ultimate book on that is the aphorisms of Patanjali, right? The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, right? So the ultimate state of Raja Yoga is through my meditation, through my detachment, through my breathing, I can go into that state of complete sat-chit-ananda, samadhi, bliss, right? But the Advaita Vedanting says that's not the right, that's not the right one either. The ultimate way to do it is Jnana Yoga, right? And Jnana Yoga is divided into these three stages. Let's look at them for a second. You can write them down, but this is just the three stages of Jnana Yoga, right? Which is Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, right? Now, which is ultimate meditation. And all of you have experienced this. I read something, I watched a YouTube video, I listened to a lecture, right? And that triggered something in me, right? Shravana, right? And Shravana means to listen. In the ancient times, they would have been listening to a guru or a teacher, right? Or a saint. Today, it's watching a YouTube video or, accidentally discovering something or being sent an email and thinking that the divine has sent you something, and suddenly open an email and, that's what I was looking for. That's Shravana, right? That's Shravana. So the first stage is something in the world triggers in me a moment, right? And I go, oh, hello. There's something going on here, something deeper, something wonderful, Shravana, right? So the first stage of a Gyan Yogi, because a Gyan Yogi, by the way, doesn't do any Hatha Yoga, doesn't do any breathing, doesn't do anything. He just sits and she just sits and contemplates, yeah, the Gyan Yogi. However, you can do the other three yogas. Nobody's stopping you, but there's no need. Just think, right? That's why if you look at some of these rishis and seers, look at Ramana Maharshi, for example, or Ramakrishna, they look like they were going to die any moment. They were just like this, like, little beings, but they were thinking, they were reflecting, they were observing, right? They were aware, right? So it's not a case where you're suddenly a yogi and you're sitting perfectly right, or you're a Shakti. You don't have to do anything. You just have to think, right? So the first stage is I shravana, that I surround myself with listening, with hearing, with receiving, right? First stage. Second stage is I got to think about it, right? Contemplation, manana, right? Now, what does that mean? That, uh, oh, ask yourself this question. We talked about it a few weeks ago. That stuff I grew up with when in childhood, was it correct? No. That religion I grew up in, was it correct? No. What my parents taught me? Nah. What that guru taught me? Nah. You start discerning, right? You start questioning. You start asking, well, what is it that I really think I am? I don't know, right? Like Mary said, I don't know who I am. Fuck, you know? And you're asking, you're questioning the tradition you came from, the religion you came from, the world you came from, your parents. You're questioning everything, right? This is a huge step towards your own awakening. Now, unfortunately, what happens when young people do this is that they get pulled into cult-like behavior, so they get sucked into things, right? And end up being Scientologists or Osho or whatever. They do and go and do crazy things, right? And they give up their world and they think this is the answer. They found it, right? But the Gyan Yogi is perpetually doubting and questioning everything. Not in a negative, horrible way that you're all lying, no. But how do I feel about it? What does it resonate with me? Do I understand it, right? This is when the picture that we first started the class with, the Hamsa, comes into being. The discernment, Hamsa, to be a Hamsa in the world, right? I am not what my parents told me, right? You know, I'm not a good Brahmin Bengali boy who should worship this. I'm going to explore. I'm going to become my own thinking, right? And even if you were always like that, Joel, you have made that belief into a belief also. So let that go, right? Because being liberated and free becomes a belief and you start believing that that's your belief. Even that I doubt, because there's no answer in that, right? It didn't give me all the joy I wanted. So I still go and do bhakti with Raja. I still go and do mantra, right? I still look at Ganesh. I still cut the wood. I still do other things, right? So the key then becomes this discerning contemplation becomes the next step in a Gyan Yogi's life. Consciousness seekers, seekers of true consciousness, right? The third stage, which is dhyana, is not dhyana of yoga, okay? It is the dissolution of the subject object distinction. Look at the computer screen, right? Who is looking at the computer screen? Your eyes are seeing it, right? Your brain is interpreting it somehow, right? You're receiving all these signals and you've constructed a reality in your head that said that's Raja, that's it's now whatever X in the morning. I'm sitting here and we're in satsang, we're in dialogue, and I've got all this construct, right? But who is watching? Okay, so then you say, well, it's my mind. My mind is observing this, right? I'm receiving these signals into my mind, but my mind also just thought about toast and breakfast. My mind also thought about, those people that are coming to visit us 2 hours from now. My mind started thinking about all the other things I have to do today, right? So I can't trust my mind. So let's pull back a little bit more into deeper meditation. And we say, well, okay. So the question then becomes, by the time you keep pulling back, you get to a state of awareness, right? Where you suddenly feel that you're watching yourself doing all these things. You know that feeling? What we call turiya, right? Turiya. There's somewhere, some part of you like Alex was talking about, something watching all this. Not judging, but just watching. Just there. Awareness. Isn't it beautiful? Awareness. Awareness. So look at those three stages we just went through, right? So the way to approach the who am I is we're now beginning to get to a place where I'm aware of my thinking, of my body, of this world, of my identity, all these things I've constructed. I'm becoming aware. You agree? I'm aware. But with practice, it becomes a very nice state, right? Because you're kind of, even when you're smoking the ganja, then you're saying, ah, look, I'm smoking ganja. How interesting. What's happening to my neural receptors now? What's happening to my breath? What's happening to my sexuality? What's happening to me? Oh, very interesting. You become interested in everything after a while. Everything becomes interesting, right? The state of Gyan Yogi is awareness with interesting states of consciousness. I'm interested in that. That's nice. Hearing, reflecting, meditation. I get input, I think about it, and then I withdraw and dissolve into who is looking at all this shit. Those are the three stages you're going through, all right? This is the beginning of Jnana Yoga or Advaita.